Have you ever felt completely stuck in a dark place? Well, today we're diving into an ancient song, Psalm 13, that gives us a powerful roadmap for how to move from total despair to real, unshakable hope. Let's get right into it.
You know, the whole story really boils down to this one question, a question we've all asked. How long? How long can you wait when you feel totally abandoned, when the silence from above is just deafening and the pressure keeps building? This is exactly where our story kicks off.
All right, so the first part of this song is just this raw, gut-wrenching cry. This is the sound of someone hitting absolute rock bottom, feeling completely and utterly alone in the universe. It all starts in verses 1 and 2. So, verse 1. This isn't just a polite question, right? It's almost an accusation, and it's coming from a place of deep, deep pain. The psalmist feels totally forgotten. To picture this, just imagine a man standing all alone in this massive, pitch-black void, looking up and shouting into an empty, silent darkness, and hearing absolutely nothing back. That's the feeling right here. Now in verse 2, that pain starts to turn inward. He's trapped inside his own head, just wrestling with his thoughts on a loop. You know, that silent torment of overthinking everything? So the scene zooms in, super close on his anguished face. You can almost see the thoughts just racing behind his eyes, while this blurry, menacing shadow starts to loom right over his shoulder. So coming out of that internal sorrow, the psalmist makes this really desperate plea, and the stakes suddenly become crystal clear. This isn't just about feeling bad anymore. This is now a matter of life and death. Verse 3 is really a last-ditch effort just to be seen. When he says, "Enlighten my eyes," he's begging for any sign, even the tiniest glimmer of hope, before he's completely consumed by what he calls the sleep of death. So from his perspective, picture his eyes squeezed shut in the darkness, and then way off in the distance, a single tiny pinprick of light appears. Then in verse 4, the fear shifts a little. It's not just about dying, it's about humiliation. It's the dread of his enemy getting the last laugh. And that menacing shadow we saw before, it's not just a blur anymore. It starts to take a clearer shape, and you can see it smirking, ready to celebrate his downfall. The threat feels very real, and it is very, very personal.
But everything we've just seen, all the darkness, all the fear, the desperation, is about to do a complete 180. Everything in this story hinges on this one simple word.
We've now arrived at the emotional climax of the entire psalm. This is the moment. This is where one deliberate, conscious choice completely changes the direction of the whole story. Here it is, verse 5, the turning point. This is a defiant declaration. And what's so crucial to understand is that his circumstances haven't actually changed at all. The enemy is still there. The problems are still very real. But he chooses to shift his focus from his fear to his faith. In our little scene, the man physically turns his head away from that smirking shadow, and he fixes his gaze on that pinprick of light, which now starts to grow, casting this warm, hopeful glow on his face. This pivot of trust doesn't just stop the downward spiral, it launches him in a totally new direction. So the final act of the story isn't some quiet sigh of relief. No, it's a full-on song. And in verse 6, he sings in the present moment by remembering God's faithfulness in the past. He's choosing to believe that the same God who came through for him before will come through for him again. And with that, the transformation is complete. The man is now bathed in this brilliant, warm light. The darkness and the shadows are totally gone, and his face is lifted, not in sorrow anymore, but in song. Look, if there is one key that unlocks this entire psalm, it is this line right here. This is the engine of change. It's that conscious decision to trust before the rescue even happens, to rejoice in a salvation that's been promised but isn't fully seen yet. That's where all the power lies, in that choice.
And so, this ancient song leaves us with a very modern, very personal question. In the middle of our own struggles, our own how longs, we all have a pivot point waiting for us. A moment where we can say, "But I will trust." The only question left is, where is your but waiting?